Hey, welcome back to the Colonial RV channel, and thank you for joining us today with one of my favorite camper vans on the market, the Winnebago Travato 59K. Now we're going over some 2026 changes as well as all the things that we love so much and makes this such a popular camper van on the market. So this Winnebago Travato 59K actually has the exterior deluxe graphics. We can get base, just the bright silver like we have here without this nice black graphic, but it also makes the look of the van just kind of a little bit more rugged, a little bit more off-road. And some of the changes with the 2026 model year, we still have the fantastic Comey water heater slash furnace from Truma, but it is now the G model. This is now a gasoline fired system. So now we have a single fuel solution where it's taking from the gasoline fuel tank for the chassis, the ProMaster chassis up there. And this is actually going to adjust itself at altitude. So this might be a better solution for folks kind of getting a little bit more north and higher up in the altitudes, as well as instead of the original ladder that we would have off the rear door, we now have this lippert and a collapsing ladder that can stow inside. So if you don't feel like you're going to be getting up on the roof, you might not want to bring that ladder, but now we just have an easier, more stowable solution and a little bit less clunky kind of to move around. Going right along towards the back here, something that's huge with 2026 is we have the exterior water fill. You no longer have to open your rear doors to hit your water management system. We still can fill our fresh tank from the rear there, but if you want to just park at a campground and not fill your fresh tank, you now have the option to do so with the exterior water fill here. And going to the rear, I just want to point out that we still have on our back door here our rear bike rack that's very well received with the Travato. Barely extends the rear when you don't have the bikes on it, but of course this folds down, it's adjustable, and we have the arms for the bikes. There's a very few models of bikes that you might have to get different tracks for, and there's also a different, like a wide range of aftermarket support for the ProMaster chassis. They're very well renowned. We do a lot of Luminous, Alvans, a lot of different racks that'll mount right off of the rear hinges here, so we can always add something if this doesn't work for you. But it is just a great option from the factory to have as well. And kind of continuing along here, of course, with the ProMaster, we have the 350 max vertical load in the receiver here, or we can tow 3,500 pounds behind us. But I wanted to mention that with 2026, we've switched from the Carefree awning that had app support to a Girard awning, also has the app support. This just, we're hoping will be a little more responsive. Our customers have kind of been asking for a change for some time here. So we're going to see these Girards on all the 2026 models going forward. Same type of app response, same switch right by the door. Just with the wind sensor, with the app, we're hoping that you guys are going to like this just a little bit more. Fantastic product from Girard here. And right behind the deluxe graphic, of course, we still have our outlets and our solar port. This expandable solar port, we can put up to 1,600 watts of solar onto this unit. We already have 245 watts of solar on the roof. And yes, you heard me correctly, 245 watts now with 2026 on the roof of our Travatos. Even if you're going with the K model like we have here and not the L, that's a ton of solar power to maintain your 12-volt fridge, your fans, your lights, and you have a 1,000-watt sine wave inverter on board. So you're going to be charging your 2 AGM batteries underneath back just a little bit quicker with that solar. So it's just a fantastic system. We're very excited about the expansion of the solar on the roof here. So let's step inside. I've got tons to talk about in here. Of course, we still have our roll-left blinds, and we've got the magnetic shades, so when I have this down, I can still get in and out and still keep the bugs out. And I wanted to mention, of course, my Lagoon table can move from between the seats here that also become our bed. This works really, really well as our expandable living slash sleeping area. Of course, if we're dining, if we're working from our van, this is great to move not just between the front seats there, but also between the rear. But I wanted to mention we've got all these ram mounts. We've got ram track mounts here. I've got it up here behind my anything keepers that pull down. So if you're sleeping, you want to throw your phone or just some items above you when you're in bed. But I've got a ram mount here, I've got a ram mount behind me on the right, and right on my grip handle, so if we've got folks coming in and out of the van and they need that extra support, we've got that ram track mount as well. There's so many accessories on the market. We've also got, so when you have this seat rotated, and I love with 2026, it's worth mentioning, we've got these, which looks like just trim of our seat here, we've got these adjustable handles And one's going to adjust the backrest of my seat. The other is going to be the control for rotating my seat. Makes it a lot easier for our clients. We love that. And if we're working in the space and I've moved my Lagoon table to right here, I've also got outlet power right there. I've also got power in the wireless charger on the chassis. And actually, while we're up here, I want to talk about some of the great things that are available with this 2026 chassis. Of course, we've seen since 2023, we've got a rear running display. This is adjustable, dimness, tilt. So in addition to the rear display pulling up on the chassis here when we put it in reverse, I've also got this display up top that I can tilt. And while you're driving, it's nice to have the digital display. I never have to turn my head. It's just a way clear. And of course, I have the large mirrors with the blind spot monitoring. With 2026, I also have adaptive cruise control up here on my steering wheel, and I have lane keep assist, I've got crosswind assist, and I have rear and front park monitoring, or basically distance monitoring alerts. So if I'm ever backing into a spot and I'm getting too close to like a picnic bench in my campsite, it's going to alert me. I'm not going to get too close, as well as before I make lane departures, I'm going to get the alerts from my side mirrors here. So the Travato is known for being kind of the most open feeling, but we still have a ton of storage inside. I have this large shelf above me. I've got the lockable floor storage that's very popular with the Travato. And also I wanted to mention, this has been optioned with the front and the rear mat here to cover the floor, but underneath you can see with 2026 we have the new herringbone pattern flooring. This is in all models, but this model here is the teak interior. So you see the white faces on our cabinetry, this new kind of like light wood texture color, which is actually really, really nice against the lighting in here. And it goes really well with our flooring and our teak coloring inside. Of course, I've got storage below my convection microwave that's deep, goes the entirety of my kitchenette here. Just got my mat in the way there slightly. And then our 12-volt fridge here is actually a deep 3 cubic foot and has a little ice box on top as well. And we've got the Eco Hot system right here to prime up our water heater, the gasoline/electric Truma G. And then I've got a thin storage here for cutlery. And we do have propane still on the K model. The propane tank, the 20 gallon, is solely for our cooktop here. So it's nice that at least you're going to go a very wide interval between filling that tank. But of course, if you do go with the KL model will have no propane on board, and it will have the same Power Max system that the Revels actually currently have. So a 5-in-1 EcoFlow, essentially the ability to run the AC for somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. And I'm going to talk even more about the KLs as we get those available, but we're very excited. Also, I wanted to mention some of the changes to the fixtures here. So we've got this nice sink that we've always had allocated in the kitchenette, but a new fixture head here. It's worth mentioning these above head cabinets are pretty deep. We've got sections cut out, so as you're organizing your gear, and it's the full length of the van to the side here. No boxes, ports, no access, except for right in the center here, so you don't have to worry about any of these storages already kind of having space taken out of them. On this side is where we have our power, our coax from our roof antenna there, and the TV that we have below is of course hooked to that antenna. Over here I've got a battery management system, new with the 2026 models. And I just wanted to mention that we've updated the outlets, the 12-volt outlets, to USB-C and USB-C plus in several of the locations, but you still have the 110 and the USB power throughout. And my favorite place for storage on the Ks is actually underneath our passenger side bench here. Look what I've got hidden in there. The ladder for the outside fits perfectly in the storage. And I have another storage just as deep over here, linens, clothes, extra gear for outside. It's just grace that in the van, out of the way, we have so much storage here. A little more storage behind me on the left here below this bench, but this side is actually where we have a lot of our system. And let me sneak you guys a peek here underneath this bench. We actually have that Truma G over here. This access point makes winterization, makes getting to your filter there in the rear just so much easier. One of my favorite things about the Travato here. And you can also see kind of throughout my van these little ports for the heat system. So this hydronic heat, it's kind of almost a little bit nicer than a forced air system, because of the dual water purpose system, there's kind of a hydronic system. It's almost more like a temperate heat when it fills the van. So it's never really that dry kind of too empty, airy system. And before I go into the rear bath here, which is one of my favorite things about the allocation of the floor plan here, I want to show you your switch system above. So of course we have an on-off on the propane tank on the exterior, but you also have an on-off for that LP valve from the interior of the van. This is our tank heater switch. So if we're staying in cold temps, we have the inside of the van warm, but we just want to keep those exterior tanks warm as well, so we don't risk them freezing or anything. We've got this switch with the indicator light to let us know that it's on. This is the switch for our 1000-watt sine wave inverter. And then that Truma G that I'm a big fan of, we've got the control for the internal heat, the water heat, as well as if we're going to run that on the gasoline or on our electric element. And then over here, I can actually start my generator up. It's fantastic. We got the 2800 watt Cummins own generator on board. We can also check our battery level, our tank level, and switch our pump on from here, as well as a couple places in the rear. And here I can just shed my loads. So if I want to power my microwave, but not my AC on the generator, or on any of the other systems, I can just select the loads from my power control system here. Fantastic product. And here's just a switch for the above LED light over the driver here. Makes the workspace a little more lit, or if you're prepping some food with the extended counter space, it's just nice to have an additional light there. So let's check out the rear. So in the rear of the Travato 59K, we have the rear bathroom here. It's worth mentioning before I take a step down that something that's fantastic about this space is we actually have this flip down sink here. So brushing your teeth, you're doing that separate from your kitchen sink. You have the space back here to wash your hands before you leave the bathroom. And this teak mat here actually comes out. So if you're using this as a shower, you can put that mat in afterwards. So anyone using the bathroom isn't going to be stepping into the shower pan. And porcelain commode with a 17-gallon black tank, no cassette tank on board with this Travato. And we also have storage behind me in the medicine cabinet. We've got a track for a curtain to go around me, but I wanted to show the deep storage we have in the bathroom space. Of course, I've got my shower curtain here, and then I also have the drawer storage. This deep amount of storage in the back of the van is just fantastic to have. Even more storage and access points to any of the water system if we needed to get to it. And me stepping down here, I wanted to point out that we've got our rods held here. There's actually points to anchor up our bar. It's going to go right across. It'll be like home improvement where I'm just looking over the fence here. And that's basically our outdoor shower. We have the connection here, but I can always grab my Oxygenics head from the shower inside and take a nice shower with a mat right here in the back of my van. And I wanted to mention that with 2026, we have improved insulated covers for all the windows and for the rear windows here. So if we're trying to bring in light from the rear windows, these guys do open. But of course, they're magnetic, very easy to deal with. And even the cab coverings for the front there, the blackout shades for the cab, are also better insulated with 2026. I wanted to point out with the water management system, of course, from here we can fill our fresh tank, but it makes things like winterization, sanitizing the system through siphon, all of that is a lot easier with these B&B Nautilus systems. So I'm glad, despite the city water connection on the outside, we still have this system with the van, and we even have a little storage cubby to the right for hoses or gear that we might not want to have in the other sides. Of course, we still have power, we still have storage. You're always going to get your exterior spray hose and the at least initial dump hose. We're going to provide you with a better one here at Colonial. And one thing I wanted to mention that's also new with 2026, and on the side of my van, by our exterior sewer hose, so of course we have our sewer dropout right there, but we have storage for the sewer hose so it doesn't have to mix with any of your other storage, and of course our propane fill and our on and off switch for the solenoid I mentioned. And in addition to the pump switches in the rear and a reallocated pump switch in the galley, with 2026, we also have the smart plug connector. So this has just been easier for folks on the market, much more of a watertight seal when it's linked to the van, and a little bit more flexible to stow inside. So this is another improvement that we're really excited about. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say, and be on the lookout for our KL video when we get our KL in stock. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Joe Welches. I'm very proud to sell the Winnebago Travato here at Colonial RV. And if you have any questions about all things camper van and RV, check out our social media, leave us a comment, reach out to us, and we look forward to finding you your perfect RV.